Hey, what time is it? It is the time for the Professor of Perseverance podcast. Thank you for coming in. And for ones that's popping in late, coming in on the replay, thank you as well. Be sure to share this out. And again, our topic is helping other people that are struggling get through that and take care of life the way it should be. And how do we do that? We have guests on who have had their struggles and they're going to go through it with us, how they got through it, and give us some motivation, inspiration, some powerful message to get through this. Today's guest is a survivor of multiple chronic illness, autoimmune disease, that took a long road to her path to healing through accessing the mind-body connection. The author of the book, The Other Side of Perfect. Welcome to the show, Debbie Emick.
Hi, James. Thank you so much for having me today. It is my pleasure to be here and talk with you.
Well, thank you. And a nice book cover there.
Oh, thanks.
So, hope things are going well with the sales. Make a make a $1.50 off of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
First time I put a book out and then sold it for $20 on. I'm not going to say where it was sold to, and they sent me a nice check for $1.48. So, from a $20 sale, I'm thinking, oh wow, I did all the work and they're getting all the money. So
yeah, it's a big difference, that's for sure.
But that's okay. You're reaching out, helping people, and we do the best we can. So, Debbie, again, thank you for being here and sharing your journey to help other people. So now you said you've had some multiple chronic illness, which can also include your autoimmune disease. And what did it say down here? So reading over here with long or with poor prognosis. So if you can go ahead and explain to us and share your story and journey with us.
Sure. About 10 years ago, after the birth of my youngest daughter, I started having some health issues that were really interfering with my life. And so what I like to say started as whispers, just grew into something that I couldn't ignore any longer. And that's where this long and winding road began, seeking out doctor's help and intervention. And so that takes a while in the autoimmune disease world, at least. And eventually I was taking like 9 different prescription medications 3 times a day and feeling terrible. And so I slowly started to take back my power over my life and my health. And so I started by working on what I was eating and putting into my body. And then I worked on how I was moving my body. I worked on eliminating toxicities in my environment, in the products I used. And eventually I had this conversation with my rheumatologist that led me to think okay, I'm going to leave my job. I was a classroom teacher for 14 years. And I thought I'll step away from my job and that will be the magic bullet, right? This is going to be the thing that finally helps. I'll eliminate all my stress in doing so. And it wasn't until after I left my job, I had tried everything I knew to heal, to get better, that I found myself in this very deep, dark, emotional place and still sick and still in pain and just not knowing what to do. And so everything from that point was just me sort of clawing myself out of that hole for the sake of my daughters, for breaking cycles and not starting new ones. And as I began to work on my mental, emotional health, this physical pain that I had been carrying in my body for years began to lessen and eventually leave. And so I couldn't really deny this connection between my physical body and my mental, emotional body anymore. And that just sort of kept me going down this path to where I am today.
And I got to go back to the teaching, and it's a noble profession. There is more stress than the common people would believe, the ordinary people would believe. I was in the classroom for about 14 years as well, and a coach as well. And so, yeah, it can be stressful at times. And the sad thing is, depending on the teacher, they may come home wore out more than the kids because they put more into it. And you know as well as I do, there's some teachers, they do the bare minimum to do
Mm.
everything, and they have no worries in the world because they're just doing whatever. So,
Mhm.
yeah, so I can understand that point where the stress involved, kids coming in sneezing, they should be at home, and you're catching their cold. And so I
Yeah.
can see that as well. Yeah. Now, I want to get to when you get to the doctor, you said taking a cocktail of 9 medications 3 times a day. And there's got to be something where these cocktails doctors know something reacts with something could cause something different. I mean,
Mm.
surely they know all that, but
Yeah.
I would think the more they're intertwining, this got to be affecting something as well.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good hunch. And the way autoimmune disease treatment works, and the way it certainly felt like for me in the beginning, was kind of just like throw everything at it and see what sticks. Um, and the treatments for autoimmune disease are treatments that suppress the immune system, right? And so those are very toxic treatments. So you're right that the more of those we're taking and the greater amount, yeah, there is a maybe possibly an immediate benefit, right? Like calming our immune system, not our nervous system. It's the
Mm-hmm.
opposite for that. Calming our immune system. So that might have an immediate benefit. So for me, my autoimmune diseases were attacking my lungs, which eventually led to some heart issues and some other places in my body physically, but those were certainly the most dramatic. And so when we look at that and we're just trying to stop that, then it seems simpler to just give these really highly toxic medicines that will eventually cause other problems, like you're saying. So yeah, that is true. And luckily, I had some support in my life at the time that encouraged me to not just stop there. And so with that support, I switched doctors, and that was a great benefit to me. She my second doctor, I'm now on other doctors, but
Mm-hmm.
she took me off of all of that almost at one time. And so that was very dramatic and very difficult, but it led to me really knowing what my body actually needs and what actually benefits my body. Um, and not just taking everything that they could sort of throw at it.
Then add to it if need to. I mean, if they're saying, here, take all these at one time, you have no idea what's working. And so, like
Yeah.
she was saying, so,
Yeah, I'm sorry, James. Uh, One of us froze there, and I missed the beginning part of your question if you did ask me a question. I'm sorry about that.
and yeah, I noticed that things were spinning for a second there too.
Yeah.
Uh, what I was saying is, I can understand, the medicine taking one or two at a time and seeing
Mhm.
how your body responds. But when taking, 9, how do you know what's working, what's not working?
Yeah.
That's my thing on the medication.
I agree with that, and I was sicker. Like, I was just nauseous all the time, right? And definitely still in pain and still struggling and not really clear about what was actually going on in my body, like you said. Um, And so, yeah, I think that was just a case of this is the doctor I could get into quickest, that I was referred to first, and just a bit of complacency and confusion and misunderstanding, and just going along with whatever that doctor did. And just like you said, in any profession, um, there's a noble side of it, right? And then there's a side that maybe just puts in the bare minimum, and that one became very clear. And so definitely when I'm telling people about my story and my path in respect to them asking me for advice, um, I always say there are so many doctors out there, and don't stop looking until you find someone that's a good match for you. And that was definitely the case for me. I needed to keep looking. I needed to not just stop there.
I think depending on what's going on, yeah, you need to get a second opinions, one to at least confirm what's going on, and
Mhm.
then you seek other help. Now, were you always tried to be the naturalistic, or did you meet someone and they said, "Hey, let's try this because I know the benefits of this"? And I mean, how did you come across,
Mhm.
this other doctor that said you need to get off his medicine?
Okay, well, that's kind of like two different paths. But really, the going the more natural route for me was just being able to take back whatever bits of control I could at a time, and just taking one tiny step at a time. Like just the next curiosity or the next thing that I thought, well, maybe this could make a difference, right? And so, like I said at first, that was um at least empowering myself to search for a different doctor, and then working on my food, working on my exercise. And I have to say, not all doctors in this realm, autoimmune realm, will even say that will make a difference. So a lot of that stuff I was kind of doing behind the scenes without really talking to my doctors about a lot. But what happened eventually, like I said, I was just in this really deep, dark emotional state after thinking like, this will be the magic bullet. This will be the magic bullet. And finding out there wasn't a magic bullet. Right. And so still I was in this place of looking for a superficial fix, and learning a lot about the gut connection to our overall health. And I was confused about probiotics. And so I decided to go to this local chiropractor. I'm in a really rural, small area. And so chiropractor is a very accessible term. And she may call herself like a healer somewhere else, but here she's a chiropractor. She does chiropractic work, but she does some other things too. And I went to her and said, I just need a probiotic. Which one can you recommend? There's so many, the prices are so varied. I didn't know what to do. And she kind of looked at me and saw through that. And she was like, wait a minute, hold on. And she ended up doing some somatic work with me and some energy work. And right away, like just being very pragmatic and really feeling like someone with MD after their name that validated whatever they said, I went out and searched for skeptics, right? So I went to my husband. I was like, can you believe she wants to do this? And I went to a good friend, and they were both like, you've tried everything else. I don't know why you wouldn't try it. And that somatic work really opened up this piece in me, that this like repressed emotion, repressed trauma from my childhood that I had thought I just moved on from and forgot about, but really it was still trapped there inside. And that somatic work sort of exposed that. And that didn't really do all the work for me. There was still more I needed to do on my own, but slowly, or, respectively, it was a very quick amount of time. Like I had been working on healing for about 7 years. I went to her, and over the course of about 3 months and doing the somatic and energy work, this pain started to lessen and eventually leave. And so that is what kept me going in this natural route. That just very clear evidence and that work that she did and kind of started. And there were all of these other things I was reading and learning and working on at the same time that just showed me like the next thing and the next thing to do.
Winning these small battles to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so you weren't naturally and naturalistic. You
Mm-mm.
were born into it and convinced yourself with it. Uh, so what made you finally buy into it? I mean, you finally saw some results, feeling
Mhm.
better. I mean, so what finally made you to buy into the system?
Well, I mean, I had a very real dark moment of the soul before all of this really started helping, right? And so this was um quite clear to me that it was like I either work on this or I'm not going to be around much longer. And I didn't want that for myself, but I couldn't really find the worthiness in myself at the time. I just knew I didn't want it for my daughters. And so my steps forward were to not have what I foresaw as the future for them. And the real first like clear moment was that moment in the chiropractor's office. And then I was reading the work of Brene Brown at the same time about shame. And I was learning how I had hid my shame away. And I was learning to be authentic and vulnerable and open up about that. I was reading or learning from Glennon Doyle. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she talks. It was her that I sort of began to understand this idea of perfectionism and people pleasing, and how I had used those character traits as coping mechanisms to kind of shield myself from the trauma I never wanted to deal with, and also protect myself from others, like keep them at arm's length, never really showing them my true self. And so I was just unpacking all of that at the same time. And then eventually I read the work of like Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keeps the Score. I don't know if you've read him, a medical doctor, talks a lot about our nervous system and the effects of a chronic nervous system in fight or flight mode, and what that does to our health because of those hormones and chemicals that are released on this chronic basis. And then Gabor Mate, his is When the Body Says No, just reaffirms that kind of thing and this addictive type of behavior. For me, the addiction was perfectionism and people pleasing. And so when I was able to sort of unpack all of those things and begin to unravel from that perfectionism and people pleasing, I was able to see that everything I had done really to heal to that point just added to my perfectionism, right? So like I over controlled my food until I wasn't eating enough. I wasn't eating very many things. I overdid it with exercise to almost like a punishing extent. And so I couldn't really begin to do those practice those in a loving way for my body until I was able to unwrap this emotional side of who I was and how I got there. And then I could begin using the more holistic techniques or treatments or processes in a loving way, right? So like nourishing my body in a loving way with food, using movement in a loving way. So I took a long winding road, but I think hopefully I answered your question there a little bit.
Oh, you're doing great, and you're doing awesome, and you're explaining some, stuff that I've never heard of. My specialty is spinal cord injury, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning from all my guests as well. And so when you uncork the genie,
Yeah.
uncork the bottle to open up about you perfectionism, and I'm sure your husband and people going, we already knew that, with
Oh.
watching you all them years, but you
Mm-hmm.
were trying to hide it from them. You didn't want them to really know it. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you finally uncorked that genie, I mean, how much of a release, or how much did you feel finally knowing you weren't hiding from anyone?
This is a really good question. What happens over years and years of these coping mechanisms, right, is number one, I got better and better at them as I went along. So by this time, I'm like 34 or older. I had just really ramped up that perfectionism and people pleasing until the only way I really knew to show up in the world was what I thought I needed to be for other people and what I thought they wanted me to be. And so in some cases,
So in
just
some cases, you were losing yourself
I
to
definitely
to
was.
to to be a people pleaser for others. So
Yes.
you were losing your oneness
Mhm.
of yourself.
That's completely true. And what happens in relationships is a codependency, right? So in many of my relationships, that was a relationship pattern that served that relationship. People like that. If I had used the coping mechanism of like alcoholism or drug abuse, uh, which I don't really separate from this, those just didn't allow me to feel as much control as what I did use. But if I did that, that wouldn't be quite as socially acceptable. But this made me appear, I mean, I was never perfect. No one ever thought I was. I never thought I was, but it made me appear like I had it all together. I could show up for people. I could do what I thought they wanted. And so in some cases, that really was the glue that held those relationships together. And so when I began to peel that back, number one, for me, it felt awful. Like if you take alcohol withdrawal away from an alcoholic. That feels bad. There's no way to numb or cope. It's just raw and real, and you got to deal with it and be who you are and show up as you are. And so that unraveled some relationships. And I feel so grateful that my husband really came along with me. And that took a lot of communication about, look, I see who I was and I see who I want to be, and I see what will happen if I don't make this change, and I need your help and your support, and I need you to come along with me. And that meant really changing relationship patterns with the people that I was closest in relationship with, which was my husband and my children. And luckily for me, because I could communicate it with them and because they loved and cared about me, they came along with me too. But some relationships stepped out, which is okay, because it left room for new relationships that could support and nourish and encourage and be an example of the growth I wanted to see in myself and in my life. And so, yeah, it's kind of both. It wasn't like, look, world, this is who I am. It felt like I wanted to hide, but I couldn't really hide anymore.
Today, our guest is Debbie Emick, and the author of The Other Side of Perfect. So, again, thank you for being here. Now, you mentioned here with your husband being in your support system, being in your corner. You can't win the Super Bowl. You can't win the World Series. You can't win the boxing match without a good support system. So, with your husband, and I'm sure your children was backing mom up as much as they could,
Yeah.
what other support system that really help keep you focused to stay strong through this?
This is a good topic. So my tendency, as I'm sure is clear, maybe at this point in our conversation, was to kind of hide, to be very introverted, and not really connect with people. And because I've kind of told a bad doctor story, let me tell a good doctor story. Very late in my health, in my diagnosis, after I thought I was all better and getting better, I got a really dramatic diagnosis that was very unexpected. And it had to do with my heart. So this lung issue that was causing heart failure. And so now I had a cardiologist, and I went to this cardiologist, and he right away came in like rushed fast, and he said, I want to write you a prescription. And I was like, ugh, rolling my eyes inside,
Another
yeah,
pill.
right. But he got a piece of paper and he wrote down 4 things. And the first one he wrote was diet, food. So he really recommended a plant-based diet, vegan. And I don't think we really need to get into that right now, but no doctor had to that point told me you can really change your health if you change your diet. So this was already something very new. And then he wrote down exercise. And so he just recommended getting your heart rate up for at least 30 minutes every day. And then he wrote love and connection. And this was brand new territory for me, sitting across from a doctor. And since then, and having dug into that and sort of him validating it, and I was already working on that, I've learned that there's just as much medical research for chronic health issues, real disease in our body when there's a lack of love and connection, as there is for any other medical treatment, right? So any pill you could give someone, any medical treatment you could give someone, there's just as much support for this love and connection. And the last thing he wrote was mental health. And he looked at me in the eyes and he goes, I don't just mean like meditate or do yoga. I mean, find your rug, pick up your rug, and sweep everything out from under your rug. And so to get back to your question, for me, this really meant, instead of hiding from authentic, true, vulnerable connection, I had to seek it out now. And I had to really give that a real shot. And so a lot of those connections were just spontaneous, just making connections with people that would reach out to me, or seeing someone that I thought like really modeled some behavior that I wanted to also develop in myself, and I would reach out to them. And what happened was a support system that really taught and showed me how to love and care for myself. And so developing that support system, that community of women, was really the first step to me finding a worthiness within myself. And so for so long, I just did it for my kids and for my family. When I could start to see, that's a lot like do as I say, not as I do. But
Hmm.
when I could really begin to develop a love for myself, which was fostered through these connections, then I that could just spill over into my family, into my other relationships, and it was a lot more like do as I do, hopefully. So I hope that sort of answers that question, but I do have a community of women now that I've found, and we are all over the country, and we can get together via Zoom. And luckily, that's all possible because of COVID and not all living in the same area. But I can't tell you what a difference it's made for my life and how I show up in the world and all of that. And I've already sort of touched on the connection with my husband and how important it was to be vulnerable and open and honest with him too.
Two things here. Two things here. One, if you don't love yourself, how do you expect someone else to love you? If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're so sick or dead and gone, you're not helping anyone. And
Yeah.
with you wanting to be a people pleaser, to be a helper, you've got to be able to take care of yourself to be as healthy as possible. And the second main thing that I get here, isn't it hard to air out your dirty laundry to make you feel better? And the
Mm-hmm.
reason I say that, one purpose of me starting my podcast is I attempted suicide
Mm.
3 times in 3 days
Oh
to
my
get out of
gosh.
here. 3 times in 3 days. That's how bad I wanted out of here. And obviously, I lived. God still
Mm-hmm.
has a plan for me. I'm still working the plan, hopefully. And
Yeah.
so, one of my purposes is let's share out as many success stories, people overcoming adversities, and helping other people out as much as possible. So,
Mm.
what I was getting to is, you know, mental illness. For me to attempt that, I had to air out my dirty laundry to a psychologist
Yeah.
for a year, and he's the one that advised me I need to get into speaking, writing books, and getting out there and spreading the message. So
That's so good, James. I can only, you know, slightly relate, as I've alluded to that, I had this very dark moment, and I never planned anything or practiced any way to leave the world, but I certainly thought it would be better if I just left it quickly. And so in the moment, I don't know how it worked or felt for you, but in that moment, I just couldn't even recognize myself and how deep I was. And luckily, I got through that like winter, both figuratively and literally. And in the spring, when the sun came out and the fog started to lift, that was very scary. Like that I would have maybe done something that I could not take back and that would affect, generations of my family. And so, yeah,
Well,
I mean,
I'm thankful that you had your children, because
yeah,
you referred twice at least that you didn't want to do anything because of them. You didn't want them to be left behind with what took place. And you didn't mention suicide, but you were alluding to it.
yeah.
And so you were still trying to protect them, from everything. So I'm thankful you had your children. All right, something happened here. Maybe she'll be back here. We're on our own here. Somehow we've been cut off. Debbie, come on back. We'll see if she can get that link back up and going. But this has been very, very enlightening from Debbie's aspect on her, not only just from her chronic illness and everything, but also get into her mental state of mind and being a perfectionism. And so let's see here again. Her book is The Other Side of Perfect by Debbie Emick. And so again, I'm not sure what happened. Somehow we got cut off. So I'm assuming I'm still on. Hey everybody. So it looks like there's two people watching and listening, but hopefully Debbie get back on and we'll wrap her up here. But her story has just been amazing that she's been able to find help through the naturalistic medical world that's helped her out and everything, changing her diet, increasing exercise, learning to open up and know that she's not alone. So, all right, Debbie, we're still waiting on you to come on back in. And so, let's see, is anybody making a comment? Come on in, comment. So, see, there's two people watching. So, hey, two people, come on in and make a comment over here. So, how do you think with Debbie with her story? Again, she's been well trained to do this. So, all right, Debbie, we may have to do a part 2 in the continuance. So we'll give her a few more minutes for her to use that link and pop back on, hopefully. Here's a comment. Very enlightening indeed. Thank you. Nocturnal Creature, appreciate you. Yeah, thank you. That she's opening up with her illness and with the autoimmune disease, and with her finding the naturalistic way to cope with it instead of the traditional. So it's been very enlightening. She's been a very good guest. So I'm not sure again what happened here. Debbie has left the building, as he would say with Elvis, right? Elvis has left the building. So, all right, what we're going to do is I'll contact Debbie and we'll have a part 2 to finish and wrap up everything. I don't know if it'll be today, tomorrow, but we'll wrap her up and we can give her another minute or two to see if she'll pop back in. So I don't know if she's having trouble with the internet. I know yesterday my internet went down and it was gone. It was out for 2 or 3 hours. So I don't know if something happened in her area from there. So, all right. Anybody else? Let me tell you. Let me see. Let me tell you one of my stories here about. Let's see. 2 weeks. 2 weeks before my injury, it's like I was begging for something to happen, right? And it was like I was getting signals something was going to happen. So, see, of course, as soon as I remember, everything goes haywire. The angry quiet. Hey, yeah, there you go, buddy. Yeah, Debbie was on here, and all of a sudden she popped off. So I'm assuming something with her internet. And Nocturnal Creature says dealing with RA and trying to manage it with the natural approaches. Yeah, there's more one with those saying more than one way to skin a cat. So so we'll go from there. So, hey, what I was going to say, when you get paralyzed, laying in bed, you have plenty of time to think about what could have been. And so it was like for 2 weeks I was begging for something to happen to me. And we're hoping Debbie will pop back in. If not, we'll do a part 2 with Debbie to finish up her story. She's been an excellent guest. So, but it's like 2 weeks I was begging for something to happen. So 2 weeks before my injury, I was out riding around with some friends and, been out at 11 o'clock midnight, and we were four-wheeling in a Jeep, and I had one or two many of what we'd call excessive sodas, pops. I don't want to put one particular brand out there, that I was drinking that night. So being that I thought I was invincible, I went to go try to stand on the row bar and surf as we're four-wheeling. How stupid am I? But I'm invincible. Nothing's going to happen to me. So I get hands up on the row bar, both knees up on the row bar. I got my right foot up on the row bar, ready to go stand, be up there on top. And all of a sudden we hit a hole. Jeep hits the hole. I go flying over the front of the Jeep for momentum. My left arm hit the top of the windshield. I landed in front of the Jeep and it stops about, a foot and a half from running me over. Wow. I get home and everything like that. My mom sees me and I'm cleaning my wound out. Yeah, actually, you can see. Let me move this over here. You can still see the scar. Where are you? Where are you at? Move over here. Move this way. There we go. I don't know if you can see it. Let me move the microphone down. Where is it at? Well. They still got a wound. And remember my mom, she says, if you don't quit doing the things you're doing, I'll be taking care of you the rest of your life. And I said, oh, Mom, you worry too much. So here I'm being warned to slow down and quit doing those things. So that was about 2 weeks before my injury. About a week before, I went off to college for a week, come home for the weekend. We're playing a softball game in the neighborhood. My younger brother is 5, 6 years younger than me. I'm 19, athlete, strong, prime time. He got mad about something. He attacks me. And I'm 5, 6 years older than him. He attacks me. I remember pushing him down, and I said, the only way you'll be able to beat me up is if I'm laying in bed or in a wheelchair and can't defend myself. So I said, I said, yeah, the only way you're going to beat me up if I can't defend myself or in a wheelchair. Wow. Now there's another thing. Hey, Angry Quad, this is a Yeti mic. Yeti. There you go. Speak down here, but I speak so loud, I don't have it up next to my voice, but next to my face because I speak so loud. So I just got it close enough to me. So I hope you are getting a good sound from it, but it's a Yeti mic ain't required. All right, so then that's two things beforehand. So about 4 days before my injury, I only went to college for 3 reasons when I first went. Was one, to go get drafted, play professional ball, hopefully, party, and meet all the women I could meet. That's the only 3 reasons I went. And at that day, 4 days before my injury, I met a girl. Talking to her, she was going to be a nurse in the program. That's what she was studying for. And so I was talking to her that told her that when my father died when I was 16, I had to grow up and be the man of the family. And I said there's been a lot of pressure put on me at that age. And so I said, something's going to happen one day to me. She said, well, you'll have to depend on other people. I said, well, I can't depend on other people. Too many people depend on me. So here we are now talking about something happens. I got to depend on people. The day before the injury, I got to play one college game. I was the only freshman starting. After the game was over with, my mom was watching, my brother was watching, my grandmother was watching. After the game was over with, they come up and my mom said, hey, come on home for tonight. I'll cook you a home meal. I'll drive you back down to college the next day, tomorrow. I said, no, Mom. I said, I'm going to go back with the other baseball players. I said, the way things are going now, nothing can stop me. You know, like the guy on the Titanic when the captain says, not even God himself can sink this ship. So here I am saying, nothing can stop me, right? Well, God didn't need to sink his ship. That iceberg did it for him. Whereas the next day, we're playing football. Now, no helmets, no pads, no protective gear whatsoever, but we were playing tackle football. About 5 plays before my injury, this guy hit someone else up high. And I remember yelling across the field, man, the way you're playing, you're going to break someone's neck. Uh-oh. 2 weeks before, my mom said she'll be taking care of me the rest of my life if I don't slow down. Week before, tell my brother unless I'm in a wheelchair or laying in bed, can't defend myself, he'd be able to beat me up. Meeting a girl, but all the pressure from my dad died when I was 16. The day before, nothing's going to stop me. And now here I've yelled out, the way you're playing, man, you're going to break someone's neck. About 5 plays later, my team got the ball back. I told them, I said, hey, I'm done playing for today. I got to get my stuff ready for class. So I left the huddle. I got maybe 10 feet away, and then I heard someone say, we need someone to run the ball. I stopped, turned around. Hey, Amy cried, yes, we'll catch you later, buddy. And so I stopped, turned around, and I said to everyone, I said, I'll come back for one more play. How many times you heard somebody come back for one more something, and then they get whatever happens? People that go, I have one more month before I retire, and then something happens. I'm on my, like Captain Charlie Plum. He was on his 75th and last flight mission in the Vietnam War. He got shot down and was an enemy prisoner in enemy territory, prisoner of war for nearly 6 years. How many times you hear that? So I said, I'll come back for one more play. That one play, they handed the ball off to me. I bust through the line, broke a couple of tackles. I scored a touchdown. And when I scored a touchdown, I turned around towards everyone and I putting the ball down. The play's over. Touchdown, dead. It's over with now. Scored a touchdown, putting the ball down. I see something in my peripheral vision. I don't know what it is. I see something. On the right side, I feel contact up high. I hear a loud pop. And then we both go to the ground. That day, only one of us returned to our feet, and it wasn't me. So, for like 2 weeks, I had something that was telling me, slow down, smell the roses. Life's not that desperate to have to go 100 miles an hour. You're not invincible. I ignored all them signs. Huh. Now, why is that important? Because what if I wouldn't have broke my neck that day? Those 2 weeks wouldn't have meant nothing. But when tragedy happens, we have we have time to sit back and think about what could have been and if we could have changed our direction or whatnot. Doesn't mean we would have, even though what happened, but we went from there. Got tackled from behind. Yes, sir. Nocturnal creature. Yes. Guy hit me when I wasn't ready after scoring a touchdown and broke 3 vertebrae in my neck. So, all right. Obviously, Debbie's not coming in. That's just what would we say? That's just my part of my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right. Hey, I want to thank Nocturnal Creature. Hey, thank you for coming in, buddy. And Angry Quad, thank you for it as well for coming in. And I don't think Debbie's going to make it back today. What I'll do is get a part 2. I'm not sure if that'd be, I don't know if it'd be today or tomorrow. It may be here in the next few minutes. Let me see if I can get hold of her. Maybe in the next few minutes. Hold on here. Don't go anywhere. I got to edit this out anyway. So let's see if she sent because I can send her a new link if she needs one. See if she's said anything over here. And here's a message. Just see if that's from her. Debbie. All right, so we may be back. I'll just send her the link. Let's see what she says and get her back on here. She says, sorry, computer just shut down completely. We'll log back in as soon as I can. Think it was set to auto. I don't have any other contact info for you. I'd reach out. Sorry again. It says it could take 10 more minutes. And that was 12:46. I talked to her for almost 10 minutes. So I tell you what, we'll just go from there because I got to edit this out anyway now. And so, all right, let's see here. We tell her to use the link, same link to get back on. All right, so, all right, we'll give her a few more minutes. She said 10 minutes, and that was 8 minutes ago. So let's see. We'll give her a few more minutes, and then we'll go from there. What else can I tell you? Let me tell you this little short, funny story here. Nocturnal Creature. See what you think about this one. I got this buddy. We grew up together. We've known each other for over 40 years. I'm in Tennessee, and we got the lottery in, I don't know, 15 years ago. One time, maybe 10 years ago or so, the lottery finally he got to listen. Hey, like, listen to me. Thank you, Nocturnal. You appreciate that, buddy. And so, but he, again, we've known each other 40 years, and the lottery had gotten up to a $500 million. That's a B, $500 million. 500 million had gotten up to. And so he came up to me one time. He said, "Man, you see what that lottery's up to?" I said, "Yeah, man, I sure love to win it." And all of a sudden, here's his thinking. He says, "I'd love to win it too, but if I did, they would take my food stamps away." Wait a minute, they meaning the Welfare and Food Stamps Office would take his food stamps away if he won the 500 million, the $1 billion or $500 million. Okay, if he won that, they would take his food stamps away. He said. I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "You could live off of $500 million, 500 million. You could live off that you need the $191 in food stamps." So, what kind of thinking do you have for that to be a mindset from there? So he's obviously didn't win the didn't win it. And I don't know if he's still on his food stamp or not. I hadn't talked to him in a year. But this was 10 years ago, longer than that probably, on the lottery there. But he sure enough said, if I won this, it would, they would take my food stamps away. So, wow. Uh, man, known him for 40 years. I guess shouldn't be surprised he said that. But to openly hear it, I guess, was incredible. So let's don't have that mindset that we're stuck in life for to have to worry about $191. So let's get in that mindset that we can do better than that and make more than that and go from there. So, all right, Nocturnal Creature, I appreciate you being here. And go away, quiet. He had to move on. So I think I'm going to move on and contact Debbie, and we'll try to go from here. So, Nocturnal Creature, I'm going to try to, hey, drop a email or something, Nocturnal Creatures. I'll email you next time we get Debbie to finish up her story. So if you don't mind dropping the email on here, and then I'll send it to you for the next time she comes on. It's been more than 10 minutes now. The computer is still taking a while. So, all right, let me give you one more story. We'll wait another minute or two. I'll give you one more story. Now, being when I was 12 years old, oh, okay, you get the notification. Okay, thank you. That all right to be good. Thank you. And so we'll try to have it about this same time. There you go. Hit the bell. There you go. Thank you, Nocturnal. So, yeah, we try to have it about the same time, about 12 or so, to that way it'd be easier to remember anyway. But my dad. Now I was like 12 years old. I had made little league team, and I didn't know how to bunt the ball, and so the coach had my dad say, try to teach him how to bunt the ball and everything. So it's a pretty good story. So in our front yard, we had a fenced-in front yard that we played. We called blue ball, a little plastic ball and bat. But it was front yard was fenced in, so we could have a home run fence, and it was for keep our dogs in, and plus keep us out of the road and everything, playing safely. So, but we'd been out front with the hard ball and bat, and my dad, he would go, "Don't play hard ball in the front yard. Don't play hard ball in the front." Well, when the coach says, "Hey, they need to learn to your sons," me and my brother need to learn to bunt. Can you try to help them out and everything? So what does Dad do? Tells us not to bring the hard ball and bat in the front yard. He brings the hard ball and bat and us in the front yard to learn how to bunt. All right, so he's teaching us and everything how to bunt the ball, throwing the baseball, using the bat and everything. All right, Dad throws one to me. I square around to bunt it. He hit the top of the part of the bat, went flying behind me, and went through the glass door. Glass door. So Dad, with his wisdom, don't play hardball in the front yard. All of a sudden, he's the one playing hardball with us. And so I bunted. It went behind, broke through the glass window, and then Dad's of his wisdom says, "Now you see why I don't want you playing hardball in the front yard." He's the one that brought it out to us. So that was pretty good. All right. Nocturnal, everybody. I think we're done. I got to edit this. I don't know if she'll be on. It doesn't look like it. So we'll set up a part 2 with her to finish up. She's been an amazing guest. All right, everybody. Thank you for coming in. We'll catch you what's called on the flip side. I do have tomorrow and the next day more podcasting. So if you can hop in, that'd be great. All right. Nocturnal, take care, buddy. We'll talk to y'all later.